Hi, beautiful people. Today, we're painting mushrooms. Not any mushroom, but the mighty Morel mushroom. This is one of the most famous and sought-after mushrooms in the world. They only come out in the spring, and they're really hard to find unless you know what you're doing. Yes, I do hunt these mushrooms myself. I love picking them, I love eating them, and I love painting them. I do a lot of photography when I'm in the woods too, so eventually I'm hoping to have a little picture book about morels, but we'll get to that some other day. This painting took several painting sessions and was quite a long process because there's a lot of detail in morel mushrooms and I wanted to get this done right. So I'm not going to spend much time on this preamble here. I hope you enjoy watching this video. Now, let's head over to the studio. And welcome to the voiceover. As you can see, this painting starts out with a colored background. I usually color my background just to have some base going on. But in this situation, I'm using an old painting that I didn't like so much. But my process really starts with getting the line drawing down with a little light blue paint or some neutral color such as light brown or something. Then I get the shapes in there as you can see here, just to feel out the composition and what have you, get a base for the color and get some movement in the picture. It's really pretty loose at this point. I do not want to get too much detail yet. And as you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm taking some really loose paint, different colors, and I'm splattering them and dripping them, and I'm just building some base layers here. It's just to have a nice ground to build on more details, and a lot of the stuff will show through in the final painting, and it'll guide me into what is going to happen. Here, now I'm starting to get a little detail in there, just kind of plotting out where all the little crags and highlights are in the morel mushroom. I do this pretty quick again, but using some reference points from photos and or other reference material. And I'm also now going into a little bit of detail, trying to define those ridges of the morel, specifically kind of get a base color down, bring them forward a little bit to see if where all the little crags are going. Then I let it dry, as you can see. This is a couple days later, and I'm punching the background back, getting some of that negative space worked out, applying thin layers of glaze in some spots and covering up some things that I did not like in the original layout. Adding the dark colors will pop the mushrooms out a little bit more, which I kind of wanted in this painting. This painting was commissioned for somebody's Christmas present. And here again, I'm splattering and pushing and pulling a little bit, just to get more layers in there. And at this point, now I'm making some very good thoughts on the little craters in the mushroom, really deepening them, especially in the background. And if you ever really looked at a morel mushroom, they've got little ridges that run right into the holes and do some funky things. They're just not black divots like I've seen a lot of people paint or draw or even sculpt them that way. They're much more subtle, and they almost glow on the outside, and then they get really dark on the inside. I spent a lot of time pushing that dark in there, but not making it black, because it's really not black. Little side note, I hardly ever use tube black paint. I usually make it with varying colors like alizarin crimson and Prussian blue together, or alizarin crimson and sap green. They make really nice blacks when you mix them together, and they add warmth or coolness to the black that you're using. And again here, I'm pushing the spots back, and I'm pulling the ridges forward. Often when I get into this kind of detail, I usually will hold several brushes and go back and forth between the darks and the lights. That's just kind of a preference that I do when I'm doing kind of a detail-y work like this. This detail goes on and on. I will often step away from the canvas, look at it from the other side of the room, just to make sure things are coming together. When you're right on top of the canvas, it may look good, but you take a couple steps back, 10 feet back, you'll see the painting in a whole new light. And I'll do that several times in a painting session, just to make sure everything's going well. Also note, yes, that is some Funko Pops sitting up on my shelf there, and the one to the right, that's our friend Bob Ross. He was an inspiration of mine when I was a kid. I don't absolutely paint like him at all anymore, but as a kid, it was entertaining to watch, and really got my love for painting seeded, I guess you would say. And here I go again, doing the little mushroom in the back. This one I didn't do as detailed, as he's a little further back, and I thought the detail on him was probably not as important as the other two big ones. Again, this commission was requested, and the request was to do Morels just being Morels, which means they just kind of clump together in a grouping, but not always on top of each other. They pop out, they're like little magical mushrooms, not in the psychedelic sense, of course, but they are definitely people's most favorite one to hunt. Most people who say they're mushroom hunters just hunt morel mushrooms. And I go back and forth sometimes with foreground and background, just to add some punch here and there. And it always seems, once you get into the groove of making these grooves, no pun intended, okay, maybe it was intended, the other ones come together so much easier. Now I'm going back and forth between the mushrooms, just making sure that the colors are together, looking good, not looking like three different paintings. I wasn't really liking the background how it was, so I'm just pushing back over with a thin coat of probably sap green and some other colors in there. And you can tell I didn't like the color I laid down there, so I just scrubbed that out. This color coming together much better this time. I kind of wanted the forest floor to feel magical, like after a rain and the moss is all wet, it just sparkles and glows. And again, I'm leaving a lot of that accident that I put in there with the drips and the splatters and just the mistiness of the background. The other layers shine through a little bit here and there. Now it really starts to look like the mushrooms are sitting in that moss. I'm adding splatters just to finish it up a little bit. And we've gone to, I think this is the last painting session right now. I'm tidying up the background, cleaning up things I don't like, pushing and pulling, cleaning up the mushrooms a bit. You can also see Tim the Enchanter in the background and the Killer Bunny from the great Monty Python movie. They keep me company in the studio while I paint. I often am listening to music, whether in my headset or just over the speakers. It keeps me going, shoring up and making those stems feel like Morel stems. They're soft, they're glowy, really pushing highlights in only a few areas, not the whole of it. Working between all of the different mushrooms. Again, that helps keep unity within the main subjects. And it's a good rule to have odd numbers in your composition. It is pleasing to the eye. And usually you want them to be overlapping or interacting in some kind of way. But again, the request was for them to be Morels being Morels. Of course, I was doing this in the dead of winter in December and dreaming about being out in the woods, picking, hunting, photographing all the beautiful mushrooms out there. I'm continuing to put a little extra effort into some environment that these mushrooms are staying in. Some grass, some leaves, some weeds, and even some sticks. A lot of my mushroom paintings, I have a lot more foliage and leaves on the ground. But this one I just kind of wanted it more subtle and have the mushrooms themselves as the star. just some final touches and then signing the painting. Always make sure you sign your paintings. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button down there somewhere. Subscribe. I am giving away a painting. It's a wave painting that I'll be showing a video of at some point. So after I have 10 subscribers, I will be putting up that video and we will be giving away that painting. It's a really cool painting too. So also down below, follow me, Facebook, Instagram, all those other things, and I hope to hear from you guys. Also, comment below and let me know what kind of art tutorials you might want. I'm going to be starting some in the next couple of weeks in spite of doing a lot of work travel. So hopefully that'll be coming up soon. If you have any ideas on technique, materials, or anything like that, let me know. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.